some of these areas that can help. So what is the sign that collaboration is working? When you see companies that are becoming more responsive, moving more quickly, introducing products more quickly, and shortening cycle times, that's a sign. Now, there are other things that impact that besides collaboration, but more and more, you can only get there by collaborating with your trading partners. We see federated business models like what Boeing is doing with the Dreamliner, and you might say, well, that's a bad example. There was huge delays in that product. That's true, but Boeing has said, you know, this is the business model of the future, and this is how we're going to develop all our planes. There's tremendous advantages to this, and it's amazing how they did that. We talked about outcome sourcing, delivering a total solution. So you may have one piece of the puzzle to bring to your customer, and so you need to collaborate potentially with other players to bring a total solution in this high-value customer experience, and you can make much better margins by doing that. So people who have successfully done that is a great example. Now, this is not easy. Collaborating is, nobody ever said collaborating was easy. So some of the big challenges, just having a virtual enterprise model has its own big set of challenges and risks. You've got so many companies you're working with across time zones, et cetera. And one of the biggest risks is, so you spend a lot of time making that contractor manufacturer work really well, get them up to your standards, and next thing you know, they're your competitor, right? They're building your stuff, and believe me, that's happened many times. So that's a huge risk that needs to be controlled. Another challenge is actually just the culture. If you don't have a culture of collaboration in your company, all the technology in the world is not going to help. And so building that culture, not just within your own firm, but selecting trading partners that are also able to collaborate, that can become part of the selection process for them. We did in a survey we did earlier this year of business priorities, the acquisition of talent and the retention of top talent was one of the top issues. So in spite of the high unemployment rate, this is still a big challenge to find the right people who can do the job. And this last point, again, as I mentioned, it takes a long time to build up a collaborative relationship. These are strategic relationships. You won't have them with all your suppliers. But that investment means that you can't just switch suppliers necessarily that quickly. So you need to build into those relationships the flexibility and the adaptability to change as market circumstances change, as the competitive landscape changes. So that becomes a key to success. So we'll wrap up here with where do we see things going? This idea of the virtual supply chain and specialization is only going to become more extreme. Now, there are some examples of companies like in solar power manufacturing where they're going back to some more vertically integrated model. But in general, the trend is to even ever more specialization. And this just means instead of dozens of players, you've got now hundreds of players involved in bringing a product to market. So the collaboration and orchestration becomes that much more important. The right sourcing or the bringing, as we see, the wages in India and China and other places are going up like 15% a year over year over year. That's starting to put a dent into, where is the real low-cost area to manufacture. So we see people bringing back call centers and manufacturing to either to Mexico or the U.S. and so forth. We've got this avalanche of data coming from what I call the instrumented supply chain. So as we see more instances of auto ID and RFID and sensors, it's creating this huge wave of data. What do you do with all that data? That's where analytics becomes really critical. So you can make some sense of all the demand data and the movements through the supply chain. So I just see analytics popping up everywhere, almost every software company doing it, and it being their most successful products. I mentioned social networks. I'd really encourage you. There are a few pioneers, like in Canon, when they launch a product, we'll they're using some technology to kind of scour the web and say, what are people saying about that product? And they can discover issues earlier than they would by waiting for them to trickle into the call center. You can also look at trends and know what's going to be hot and what's not, maybe plan your inventory. So I think that's an area that's really ripe that people haven't really tapped. And there are technologies out there that can help you get that information. Mobility, we're going to talk more about that later today, but that's really rising, of course. This idea of rapid teaming. If you think about how Hollywood movies is made, you bring together a team, right? You get the right cast and the crew and the director, and you make the film, and then you dissolve the team and you go on to your next project. We see more and more projects being run that way, and you have the capability, if you've got this kind of agile ability to collaborate on them and so forth. That way you can sort of build the ideal team, right, for each project. We know exactly the manufacturer to make this, exactly the person to service it. And the last point here is supply chain resilience. It's something we've been looking at ChainLink for over a decade. And I can't emphasize enough how important this is. We've seen instances where a single disruption in one factory shook up the whole industry because one customer didn't anticipate it and the other one dealt with that much better, and it's actually brought down industry leaders and made new companies as an industry leader. So, and this can't be done without collaborating with your supply chain, because that's most of your risk is actually outside your four walls. I think that's, so that, getting good at collaboration is absolutely necessary. It's our future, and that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And I'll be around. We don't have time for Q&A right now, but I'll stick around after the next session down here. And one more thing I want to mention: if you're interested in a copy of that supply chain risk report, just send me an email or give me your card, and I'm happy to